afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trader Merlin. It is your Monday edition, and as we've been pointing out for the past few weeks, Mondays seem to be the worst day of the trading week. The good news is you may be asking, Merlin, what are the best trading days so far this year? Wednesday. Wednesday has been the best trading day with the biggest rate of return. So basically, don't do anything on Mondays, trade on Wednesdays, or hold on Wednesdays. Don't hold on over the weekend into Mondays. So let's dive into what we had happen. We've been talking about this as a group. I asked you guys what would be a number that you came in and saw that the markets are down, this percentage, you say, oh man, this is a bad day, this is a crash. And, for me, that number has always been 3%, right? Typically, markets move 1%, that's great. Anything under 1% is a normal day. 2%, you're getting a lot of volatility. You get over 3%, it's one of those, oh man, that was a doozy. Well, today, we had a plunge that was over 4% at one point. I'll bring up the full numbers here for the NASDAQ, which is the worst of the two. Obviously, we'll talk about NASDAQ and we'll talk about S&P, but it was pretty ugly. So I'm going to start right off with the numbers. I saw Steve here saying, hello from sunny California. We finally have some sunshine before more rain. He said, sold a lot of puts today and bought some Bitcoin. Yeah, I just did one put position, which I will tell you guys about here in just a second once we get to that topic for the day. The question is, where's Bitcoin headed here, right? There's a lot of pessimism and negativity out there, and I actually have a few good comments and questions that came through on the YouTube channel. Indigo Clover certainly I would say is on the side of Bitcoin as a scam, and I want to make sure I get to a couple of his comments here just so I can add some clarity, at least my 2 cents on the validity of some of this. What I don't want to do is get into the backed in the corner of all crypto is a scam. I mentioned on the show, I think most of it is. However, what is the value? What does it add? We'll talk about that a little bit here near the end of today. Yeah, Steve, premiums were absolutely fantastic today, and the one that I was trading had some fantastic premiums. So let me start at the bottom and work our way up to the top. This is one of the more surprising pieces of the day for me was Bitcoin. Really just kind of surprised that we actually went back down to those lows that we saw 2 weeks ago, from Friday the 28th of February. It just didn't feel like we were going to get that low. Now you can see I've got this 26,000 mark, and I even tweeted out today, I just felt like if we got a close below 28 or 78,000 that we'd probably challenge these 66, 67,000 mark that goes all the way back into November, the origin of the whole election rally that we've enjoyed so far. Now, on the grand scheme of things, long term, you guys got to just not even worry about this. Don't even worry about it. I know it's tough to say, but this is that diamond hands, that hodl mentality, right? If you are someone who's in this for the long haul as I am, we have had a major turn politically, regulatory, and things are starting to look much better, and it leaves a kind of a head scratcher as to why Bitcoin is selling off so much. Now, one of the theories that a buddy of mine proposed, he says, it's probably the old cypherpunks. And I thought about that for a second. Some of you may not know who the cypherpunks are. Cypherpunks are kind of the original group long before Bitcoin came about that were working on this decentralized cryptocurrency or decentralized currency to basically say we want nothing to do with the government, right? This is the ultimate libertarian currency, and no one controls it, and it's away from the government. And the belief was that if the government is now going to have a stockpile and start hoarding Bitcoin, that defeats the purpose. And I don't know if I necessarily agree with the argument, but I think there might be a lot of people out there who are unloading their Bitcoin partially because of that, maybe taking some profits. And I think what you're actually getting are what are called paper hands. Paper hands are people who have no conviction. They got no plan to stay the course. It's just whatever happens, they go with. And I think part of that is also what you're seeing here, maybe some leveraged liquidations. But yeah, as Sweeney says, Bitcoin chart looks like trash. This picture, I would say, absolutely looks like trash, right? Oh, no, we're not back to election day. We're actually above that. Election day was Tuesday the 5th, so if we got back to election day, that's back to 68,500. So we're close, but not there yet. So I agree with you, Sweeney. This picture looks like trash. Now you tell me, does this picture look like trash, right? It's all a matter of perspective. And for those that listen to the podcast, what I was showing initially is the chart from October of 2024 through today. And it doesn't look very good. It certainly looks like it's getting weaker. It's rolling over. It looks really bad. And in my opinion, it does feel like this is going to continue to move to the downside until it turns and moves to the upside, obviously, right? Then what I did is just zoomed out, because I think trading is all about perspective. And I went back to, let's say, these lows from 2022. I'm now going to the November lows of 2022 through till today. And this is just an uptrend with a giant pullback in the process. So I'm looking at it, and I agree with many people here like Mark. I think that if you are someone who's interested and believes in Bitcoin, and again, I'm not trying to sell you on it. You don't have to believe it or not. That's up to you. Put your money where you believe it's going to get you the greatest rate of return. Then based off an uptrend picture like this, if we're not at a buy point right now, we're getting close to one on Bitcoin. And I already have enough Bitcoin. I want to be using my capital in other places. So I didn't add any more to my position, although I kind of wanted to, but I did not do it today. See that you can short Bitcoin. Yes, maybe people are torturing Trump. Well, so you can short Bitcoin with the futures market. You can go out there and short IBIT or these other spot ETFs. So in essence, yes, you can go short cryptocurrency. A lot of the exchanges have perpetual futures, not CME type. CME obviously has their futures market, but you can go to Coinbase and Binance and KuCoin and OKX. Those all have perpetual futures products as well. And what's interesting about those marketplaces is, in many cases, you can get much more leverage than you would on a U.S. exchange. You can get 50, 100 to 1 leverage on those international exchanges. So that could be a big factor of this. Also, liquidations, right? When you have the price fall as much as it has, and maybe statistically or percentage-wise, this doesn't look like that much, but off the highs that we established back here on January 21st of this year to where we closed today, Bitcoin is down 27%. That's a pretty substantial pullback. And there's a lot of people that may have helped push this market up by using leverage longs and creating more buying pressure. But when you get a sharp drop in price, that all of a sudden creates a liquidation for those leverage longs. And I think that is also part of this. So on the day, you see here, it shows negative 8.64%. It was not down 8.64%. Again, this is why I don't like looking at the futures for Bitcoin. I like going to the spot price, which is a much different picture, and it looks like this. And the reason it's so different is now you can see the other over the weekend. You can see Saturday, Sunday's trading activity, and really since Thursday night, it's been nothing but selling off, which is, it has me scratching my head and wonder, because here you have the president sign an executive order saying we're not going to sell this Bitcoin. That should be a bullish piece, and talking about potentially buying more down the road. Yeah, and having this summit, which I think would also bode well for it. And we're down since the night of that he made that announcement. We're down roughly, let's get the numbers here for you, about almost 13%. Pretty crazy. So again, long term is the perspective you have to have here. I do have some extra little zones drawn out. The first one we're just about to hit, we almost hit today, was between 74,500 and 76,700. And then the last ditch effort here would be a bounce off that demand zone that goes back into November of 2024, the election announcement. And that would bring us all the spot price, bring us anywhere between 66,700 and 68,600. So this was the real ugly story of the day, was Bitcoin. Certainly didn't help me because I had MicroStrategy, which was rough. That was a rough day today for MicroStrategy, I'll tell you that. Here's MSTR. And while we're on that topic, MicroStrategy made an announcement that they're going to sell $21 billion worth of preferred shares to buy more Bitcoin. Conveniently, they did 21, which is there's 21 million Bitcoin. They're going to do $21 billion for the buying. Based off the numbers and the calculations I ran, if he did buy $21 billion worth of Bitcoin, based off of an $80,000 price when I did the calculation, that should push the price of Bitcoin up to something like $250,000. So it would be very interesting to get to that $250,000 mark. I didn't think we'd get that way, but that's just another announcement. And it's STRK is where he'll be selling that. Here's your MicroStrategy preferred, and they're looking to sell a lot more of this. Today was a big down day on this one. You were down about 8.23% today on Strike. STRK is the symbol. That's MicroStrategy's 8% perpetual preferred stock. So there you go. Yep, that magic 21 again, Liz. Absolutely. So let's go back to MSTR. Fortunately, I got to sell some 350 calls on Friday, so that was okay. Yeah, I mean, I was a little disappointed. I really thought we'd have a gap up on Monday. And it's funny because I didn't think I'd sold them. I had an order in the system, and fortunately, it got spilled on my 350s. I didn't think I did, which was great because when I looked, I was pleasantly surprised. So that's the bad part. You look at the picture here, it looks like it's going lower. I hate to say it, but MicroStrategy does look like it's going lower. But again, I'm in it for quite some time. I'll be in there for a little bit longer. Now, up on our list here, let's move up to your second play, or your second to last finisher. That was the NASDAQ. This was just an absolute bloodbath today. So going from where we closed at on Friday to where we are right now, 3.84%. At one point here, we were down 4.73 intraday on the NASDAQ 100. And of course, a lot of this coming from the Magnificent 7, or the not so Magnificent 7. Now, looking off to the left-hand side of your chart, let's just forget the drop and look out here and say, were there any spots I would be interested in as a strong demand zone? And for me, the answer is no. I don't see anything on this daily chart here of the NASDAQ futures where I can look and say, wow, that's a strong spot where it should bounce. So that doesn't make me feel that comfortable about the predicament that the NASDAQ is in right now. It does feel like we're, that bug in search of a windshield. And where did all of this precipitate from? Well, we talked about this multiple times, and I'm sure you guys have had some discussions about this amongst your trader friends as well. We talked about how the Magnificent 7 were those 7 companies that not only brought up the S&P, but launched the NASDAQ to all-time highs. And it's that live by the sword, die by the sword mentality. And today, Magnificent 7 is getting crushed. And one of the factors out there was something we also talked about in this program, which was this: Musk hate. Elon Musk hate. And I asked AI to create this image for me. It's funny because he's actually in the front of the crowd, apparently. It says, stop Elon Musk. We won't be ignored. I don't know if you guys saw what's happened over the weekend, but there are a lot of speculation as to why. But, people out there burning Cybertrucks and vandalizing Teslas. And it's just kind of ridiculous. We thought this might happen, right? We talked about Tesla selling off. What might be the impact here of Elon Musk being so overtly political and going, swinging and sticking to the right there and being, buddy-buddy with President Trump, and in many cases making a lot of people angry. So you polarize yourself, and this unfortunately is what happens when you polarize yourself. And we talked about the impact for Tesla, and that might go down more and more and more from here. The question is, at what point does it become a good buy point for you? Now, I had the 250 calls, or 250 puts expired Friday. Those expired worthless, and I sold some more today. Not at 250. I sold the 210s. Let me go out here at TSLA. And by the way, Tesla down 15% on the day. 15% on the day. So I sold the 210s, which when you look at this picture, it's like we're almost there. We're almost there. There is a small area consolidation that goes back to from October 11th all the way through October 23rd, where it kind of just went sideways. I'm using that as kind of the sideways basing after it had its drop-based rally out. And I'll be, the 210 is right below that zone. So unfortunately, this thing is in free fall, and for me, that's a catching the falling knife kind of moment. I have them expiring this Friday. Those are the 210s, and I collected $2.50 for the premium on those. So I'm okay holding Tesla for the long haul if I have to just sell calls against it. Liz sold the 212.50s for Friday. Good. You probably got about $3. A little bit higher than me. You probably got about $3. So good premium. But, Liz and anybody else who sold those puts, you got to look at this and go, how much more can this tank, right? There was, I don't know the name of the group, but Elon Musk tweeted out that there are these Democratic-sponsored entities. Who knows what kind of garbage he's spewing, if it's true or not, but talking about how, this is the Democrats attacking him. I don't know if that's true or not. I think it's just people upset with him and what he's doing. So how does it continue, right? How much pain can this thing go through? Does it continue to fall from here? Look, I think buying Tesla at a 50% discount is a steal. Absolutely. I think it's total steal. So I'm okay with this one. And I sold the puts. So, you sold them last Friday. Oh, bummer. Bummer. I wish you had sold them today. Your premium would have been a lot better today. You probably didn't get as much premium for that one if you sold them on Friday, because today was your real meltdown day for. That was it. Yeah, Act Blue, and who knows what other organizations. And again, RC, that's all speculation. I have no knowledge of the truth or validity of all that. And just Elon Musk is tweeting out there, and you'd like to think that there's some truth to what people tweet, but in many cases, people are tweeting out lies until they're proven wrong. So I can't tell you if that's true or not. But I can tell you that the attacks are true. There are definitely people attacking Teslas, which is kind of silly, especially for any of you Tesla owners. Like, it's just stupid to think that someone could vandalize your car or attack your vehicle just because of Elon Musk. Really terrible. Anyway, so that was your Tesla, the big move down. Nvidia as well. So I was exercised on my 115 put options on Friday, so I sold this morning. I sold the 115 calls, which were great. Had some fantastic premium there. Again, I'm totally fine owning Nvidia for the long haul. I'll be happy selling puts and lowering my cost basis on that one. So that was down 5%. You had Apple down 4.8%. A lot of these getting just absolutely crushed. Google, by the way, having other issues as well. I believe that the Department of Justice is now telling Google that they need to spin off Google Chrome and asking the president to help out with that one. I don't know what impact he's going to have, but I'm surprised we only saw this bad, 4.52% drop for Google today, given that, they wanted to spin off Chrome, which is obviously the number one browser for a while. We'll see if that changes here anytime in the future, but that was your big factor for Google today. Meta was also down 4.4%, although it's coming into some areas of demand which may be of interest. Microsoft down 3.3%. It's actually broken below pretty key levels. So for me, Microsoft's headed back to 370 based off of what the chart's showing us. And then lastly is your Amazon. The best performer, only down 2.3%. It also is coming back towards some demand levels and closing some interesting gaps. So that Magnificent Seven really weighing on the markets today, and Tesla, the big lion's share of the pain because of this unfortunate Musk hate. And I totally agree with you, Margaret. Attacking innocent people is stupid. It's a problem with society sometimes where you go after individuals where if you have an issue, you go to the source. Unfortunately. So let's keep moving up here. Nope. Oh, I'm out of my CrowdStrike, Big M. I see you asking Liz. Yeah, I'm out of mine. Let's see what else you got. I didn't have the stomach to sell puts on Tesla. I think 180 is decent price area. We'll see, Steve. If we get below 210, I might have to look at lower prices. Again, I think Tesla, talking 3 to 5 years, I do not see it going much lower. I think it's going to rally significantly, so I'm okay with that. We'll hold it. All right, let's keep going up to the podium time. We're almost there. That was NASDAQ. There's your S&P. So S&P broke, and I've been really kind of focusing on this demand zone on that chart, which it had been respecting right around 57.60 and 57.24. Well, we annihilated that today and officially closed below it, so not good. What is noteworthy is there's a gap that goes all the way back to the 16th of September, which we've officially closed that one as well. Now it's kind of like looking at the NASDAQ. You're just trying to find that next area of demand. And on the daily, I don't see anything really strong. There is something that's going to be located right around that 54.40 mark, but that's a way to go. Way to go till we get there. So pretty much bearish market. When I look at this, the uptrends are all broken. All the pivots are broken. We've broken through key demand zones. We're making lower lows. What I do anticipate happening here is I do anticipate a rally to test. So I'm going to keep this yellow box here on the screen. And again, for the podcasters, that box is between 57.60 and 57.24. That's the one I'd have there for weeks, actually, if not months. And what I would anticipate is at some point, it'll bounce back up and most likely retest this, and then we'll really get our definitive action of, is this over? Because if it doesn't break out above that, I do expect it to start trending back to the downside. So that, to me, is my expectation is a bounce coming here. You look at the volume on it. You have real increasing volume. Today wasn't climactic, right? It was high volume, but not climactic pain point like I would have expected on a day like today when you have such giant down numbers. I believe this is the worst day for the NASDAQ since 2022. So we're going on 3 years where we haven't had a down move that substantial. All right, Russell 2000, surprisingly the better of the bunch. Here is your Russell 2000 coming right back into this. I'm not going to say demand zone because it really was just a lot of sideways action for week after week after week in early June and July of 2024, and then retested it back in August. So we're kind of right at those levels. So Russell down 2.59%. Your 10-year yield, well, we got a bounce, but we didn't get it back up to that area of supply. Again, this is similar to what I think will have happen with the S&P, is it'll go back and retest a former demand zone, right? What was demand becomes supply. test that one and then sell off. But that 10-year yield to the benefit of these markets didn't even rally that much, which shows you an increased pressure on this. And we'll talk, I think in the coming weeks, we'll have bigger discussions on the data. I need to see more data as it rolls out. But the impacts of these jobs, and tomorrow I'll probably spend some time talking about that. The argument of stagflation is coming back, which of course is a combination of three factors. That's going to be growth, GDP, that's going to be inflation, and then the third point of that triangle for stagflation is going to be the unemployment rate. And we are now getting some reading about government layoffs and how many layoffs happened in the previous month in government. It's substantial. The largest spike down that has happened in years, obviously, with regards to new hires at the government. They've seen a net outflow. So we'll rekindle that discussion. I think we did it a year or two ago when we talked about stagflation, and we had two of the factors, but we never got the third one. Are we getting there? Well, we'll talk about that one probably on tomorrow's show. I think will be a good time for that. But a lot of that's going to have to do with inflation and this 10-year yield here looking good. I say looking good because as it goes lower, it makes things more affordable. It stimulates growth, and we may need that. The tariffs are the big wild card, which we talked about already earlier this year. Those tariffs, the uncertainty of their impact on these markets, I think is why these markets are taking a big dive. It's a combination of we're seeing some worse job numbers. We're having the hypothesis anyway that inflation is going to surge, and we're already getting forecasts from the central banks, particularly Atlanta Fed, that we're going to see GDP negative 2.8%. So all these numbers are pointing to a pretty rocky road going forward. So if you got big long positions, again, as we've been saying for the past couple weeks, might want to protect those things or maybe even close them out. All right, almost podium time. Crude oil. I mean, almost nobody was spared today. Now, crude oil, even though it was down 1.51%, still has not breached that lower demand zone that I've got mapped out on your screen between $67 and $65.25. Right now, you're stuck pretty much in the middle of that bad boy there. So all in all, it looked ugly for crude oil, but not horrific in the grand scheme of things compared to what the rest of the market did. And is there one darling out there? Was there anything shining? Well, gold wasn't shining either, but the trend, let's be honest, the trend is still great. When you have an entire market go through panic like it did today, this is no big deal to have a half of a percentage point drop today for gold. It was only down 0.5%. So big deal, no big deal. Let's see. What else we got? Oh, the dollar index. Dollar index, pretty much unchanged on the day. I have this really big box drawn here because I think we were talking about where it is in relation to that, or talking about stochastics. I forget why that box is there, but I'll get rid of it. Oh, great. I just deleted DXY from my watch list. All right. I'll put it back in there. But right now, that dollar getting weaker and weaker and weaker. Today, you have a little bit of a hammer formation. You guys can see the hard red edge. You have this tiny little candle, open and close right about the same price. And you had a small topping tail and a large bottoming tail. Margaret says, was anything going up? There were actually a few going up. I actually have a watch list that I keep over here, and I'll go to biggest winners. Oh, I don't. I have it downstairs on my filtering computer, but I have a screener here. This is the biggest losers, and typically what I do is I sort by price. But it's funny. Look at your biggest losers today. Once you get, let's add price in here, make that a factor, and I'm gonna manually change this filter. I'm on TradingView right now. For those who don't know, I'm gonna say it's got to be above $10, right? Because I don't really like looking at anything under $10. And you look at some of these names. I mean, there's some pretty big name. Let's see. I usually add volume on here as well, but I won't waste our time doing that one. There's usually some pretty big names that are not on this list. Today, they are. You see Robinhood. Robinhood was down 19% today. You had Coinbase was another really interesting one, down 17%. Scrolling up here, MicroStrategy was down 16%. So Mara, anything to do with crypto today was absolutely getting just annihilated. There was Mara down 16%. You had Tesla down 15%. So yeah, there were some really big names getting drawn down. But if we switch it here, can I go descending? Maybe I get some gainers. Yeah, there were some in there, but none of them are really that big. I sorted by volume there, so you really have nothing, no real major ones in here that I would say are big significant ones that had big updates. So yeah, not a lot of big gainers from a percentage perspective. Typically, I'm looking for something that has volume of 1 million plus shares. So absolutely, Oliver. Puts are going crazy. People wanted to buy those puts today, and I wanted to sell them. So there you go. Yeah, and Margaret, phenomenal question. I asked myself this question today. Margaret says in chat, she says, going into cash. You can ask yourself, where is the money going, right? If if people are freaking out, where is this money going? You don't just pull out of equities and keep it on the sidelines and don't do anything with it. One of the factors for bonds is demand, right? So when you get increased demand for bonds, the yields drop, because if more people wants to buy them, the issuer of that bond says, well, I'm going to pay you less then, right? So I think if we look at the 10-year, I think we can make the argument that money's flowing into the 10-year because the yield dropped 2% today. So I would say that some of that money might be pouring into the 10 years, but you really didn't see the dollar impacted much today, right? It was fairly unchanged. So yeah, where is it all going? Maybe it is going to sit on the sidelines. And I have one graphic here. See if I can bring this up for you guys. I didn't put it in the slides today because I was going to talk about it tomorrow. But because you brought it up, I will see if I can bring this piece up here. Where is it? If you guys could say one company, type it into chat. Give me the name of a company right now that's literally rubbing their hands together and licking their lips going, oh yeah, oh baby, here we go. This is they want this so bad. Who do you think would be salivating over market declines like we've seen? And I'll bring back up the S&P here so we can talk about the broad market. But from its all-time high, the S&P where we closed down 8.8% right now, or 8.85% discount if you're looking to buy this market. So who do you think is salivating? I'll bring up Santoshi, first guest, nails it. No, Berkshire Hathaway. Let me see if I can. Sorry if I'm typing and the microphone's right here. I'll just bring up the companies with the most cash on hand, right? You've got to look real quick and say, okay, who's really the most excited here? And I'll make this a little bit larger for you so you can all see these numbers. Berkshire Hathaway right now has $334 billion. $334 billion. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to deploy all that capital right now, but if anybody wants this market to implode and crash right now, and by the way, he now becomes, if you're bullish, you're his biggest fan right now. You're out there going, Uncle Warren, for the love of all things holy, please start buying $300 billion. Now, in the grand scheme of things overall, $300 billion isn't going to stop a market from imploding, but it certainly could have an impact and create demand zones if that institutional buying comes in. Of course, you have to think about what he'd be buying, right? He's not buying IBIT. He's not buying Mara or Riot or Coinbase, right? He's buying other businesses. Which ones might those be? Well, that's the other $50 million question. But, a lot of these companies are sitting on a lot of money. And the more those share values fall, that might give them the opportunity to acquire other companies. So, if we see some big declines, it wouldn't surprise me to see these companies step up. But Berkshire Hathaway is sitting on, $334 billion in cash. That's a hoard. And there's the chart showing over the past, let's see, when is this? This is over the past few years, going all the way back into 2010. You can see they had, let's see, this is in millions. So at one point they had 50 billion, and as of December of last year, they were like 334. So phenomenal, yeah, they're loving it. Yep, absolutely good thing to look for. Now, if you are someone like a Warren Buffett, if you're someone like a Larry Jacobson, I think it's important to look and see, to really understand what Buffett's style is, because that may give you clues as to what he's going to buy into next. And remember, he doesn't have to report for, to the end of the quarter. So he could be acquiring right now. He might be acquiring next month. We don't know exactly when, but he'll have to disclose it when it finally happens. It's like a third of its market cap. Right, Big Evan? That's crazy to think that Berkshire Hathaway is sitting on that much cash. I mean, that, in my opinion, that just tells you that Berkshire Hathaway has been saying this market's way overbought. It's way too expensive. We're not going to deploy capital now, right? They're value investors, so they're going to be looking for the deals at hand. If they couldn't find any, sell them and go to cash. So, yeah, they're probably the most excited about what's happening right now, just because they have so much cash. I saw Donald Trump excited about it. I think Trump's excited for the crypto stuff that he can do. I think he's really enjoying the manipulation that he's having. Let's see. Any big banks? Well, remember, a significant knee-jerk reaction by a market causing a lot of panic and selling is short-term bad for banks, right? If you are a financial firm, let's say you're JP Morgan, and all of a sudden your customer's like, just sell me out and go to cash, that may not necessarily be good for your firm. So I don't know if I would necessarily say it's good for banks. Cash on hand. Let's see. I think I misunderstood the question when I tried. No worries. Yeah, I maybe didn't say it very clear either. I was saying which entity, which person, but yeah, I think Yahoo Finance covers Buffett very well. Yeah, but I anytime you see Buffett or Ackman or any of these big fund managers on TV, you got to be real careful because my gut is telling me that they're manipulating you. So they're saying things. Let me see. They're saying things that may be old, right? They're not going to tell you. Let's say, for example, Warren Buffett doesn't have to report for the next quarter, right? So let's go and see. 1 second as I bring all this up here. I changed my screen resolution, so this is going to be a little messy here. Oops. Okay. Yes. So let's go Berkshire Hathaway. We'll look at the A shares. Why not? And your next earnings for Berkshire Hathaway is May 5th. Okay. So he doesn't have to say one word about what he's holding until May 5th. So even if Warren Buffett is buying aggressively right now or selling aggressively, there is no way Warren Buffett's going to get on TV and tell you that he's buying or selling aggressively right now. Why would you do that? If anything, you do the opposite, right? Because imagine, let's say Warren, this is totally hypothetical, so don't take this as insider or whatever. Let's say, I'll make it up so you know it's fake. Let's say he wants to buy Coinbase, right? If he's buying Coinbase right now, all hypothetically, if he's buying Coinbase, he's going to go on CNBC and Fox, and he's not going to say he's buying Coinbase. He's going to say that he's maybe selling Coinbase. We don't like crypto. We don't, these companies like Riot, Marathon, and Coinbase, we all think they're going to tank. He will use his influence to suppress prices even more so he can buy them at a better discount. Now, when all of a sudden the end of that quarter rolls around, it's on his balance sheet, he can say, well, we did some research and we really liked it. So I think you guys always need to think that. Always look at what people say on TV as self-interested, and I quite often like to do the opposite of what they're saying. So like Jim Cramer is the ultimate key for that. Buffett be selling lots of puts. I'm sure he has been. We saw some statistic last year, like they made like $6 billion in a year just selling puts. Like, wow, man. And, he just goes out of the money and gets paid to own it at the price he wants. If it doesn't get there, he just keeps the premium. Loves it. I went to a money market fund in my 401k 2 weeks ago. Nice. Good for you, John. and you're smiling from ear to ear right now. You're like, right on. I saved myself like 8%. That's great. Fantastic. Good for you. One thing to keep in mind if you are doing that in your 401k, most 401k providers actually put a limit on the number of transactions you can make. So, if you're kind of flipping back and forth in your 401k, they may say, sorry, we're not going to make that transaction. So make sure you know the details there. Solana and Ethereum down much more. Yeah, so we'll talk about crypto in just a sec. Let me get through the remainder. Let's see, I had some other graphics here I wanted to get into. We talked about the Musk hate. I think that for us today, this is a big piece of it. It's slowing growth. It's really people or institutions expecting these trade wars to escalate, and that could potentially slow growth even more. So that's the story du jour, and I don't see that one changing. And we'll talk about it in the next few weeks when we get more and more data. But I think I might do a stagflation thing tomorrow to explain a little bit more. Why we're coming is leaving Delaware for Texas and I forgot exactly why. Elon Musk posted something on why he should never go, because Delaware was the king, right? Delaware and Nevada were the best places, and now he's saying Texas. And the reason Delaware was just disclosure. You could do LLCs over there, and what do they call it? Not bulletproof, but unpierceable entities. And I don't know whether that's changed or not. So unfortunately, Mike, I don't know the reason why there's this angst towards Delaware. My guess is, which I probably should research before I even say this, but they may have disclosed information about companies and ownership that were supposed to be private. Oh, state taxes? That would make sense too. All right. So let's go. I'm going to go into these 4 questions came in. And Indigo Clover, who was regular on the show, I could tell he didn't like my talk track, and that's okay. You don't have to agree with me or like it, but I like your banter back and forth, Indigo. But I want to go through a few questions here, and let me start with this one. You had like 5 or 6 comments, and I'm not going to get to all of them, unfortunately, but he says, crypto is going to be the death of the dollar due to its uncontrollable fraud and biggest scam in history. Well, I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the end of death of the dollar. I think we're going to get a digital dollar. So the structure of how the dollar is created, transmitted, moved, stored, all that is going to change. The mechanism for which we use a quote-unquote dollar will simply move from physical to a digital world. Now, the question becomes, which system will that digital dollar sit on? And it will be a blockchain of some sort. We know that. It could be a blockchain or what's called a directed acyclic graph. These are the technologies to record all the transactions and all the parts. I don't think that the dollar will be on any of our systems that we are talking about, like Ethereum, Cardano, Solana. I don't think they'll be on any of those rails. It will be something created exclusively for the central bank. And I think that they will be in total ownership of that. So that's one piece. Now, the dollar, even though it goes to a cryptographic property, meaning it's a digital dollar, will still have the same level of corruption and manipulation. Now, can drug dealers use it as freely? To a point, right? If the government figures out these different wallet addresses and what that money's used for or tracks weird transactions, there is certainly a better probability of censorship and monitoring of what its citizens are doing. So we would cut back on some of it. So let me go here and read the second part. So if they hold it and never sell it, then how is it strategic? Crypto solves no problem, so it has no intrinsic value. That's not true. So crypto, depending on the project that we're discussing, does have value. So for example, what is the value of Southern California Edison? What is the value of having an electrical company? The value is I now can put a system in my house that I can plug into with all my different appliances. With many crypto projects, I'll use Solana and Ethereum as an example since Margaret brought those up. With Solana and Ethereum, that essentially is like an electrical grid that you can plug your projects into. And some of those projects are actual businesses. You're talking about decentralized exchanges. You're talking about lending protocols. You're talking about identity tokens. You're talking about logistics tracking, sharing computer resources. These plug into those networks. So the utility of something like Ethereum and Solana isn't necessarily the token itself, but the token allows you to access these networks. And to me, that's where the value of a lot of these come up. And I think Indigo's comment and kind of maybe frustration in my talk track is, well, Bitcoin's not worth anything. And I would say that what's gold worth, right? Our strategic government reserve for gold, I answer the same question for you. Right here, you say crypto solves no problem, so it has no intrinsic value. So if they never hold it, if they hold it and never sell it, then how is it strategic? Okay? Let's just make that gold. So if they hold it and never sell it, how is that strategic? How is a strategic gold reserve, which we have, but we never sell it, but we've just been holding gold forever? How is that strategic? It's strategic in knowing that it's an instrument that has value because of its scarcity. Now, yes, I know Indigo and others would argue that we can use gold for different industrial services and it has utility that you can use gold for. But our reserve is for none of that. Our government reserve in Fort Knox has nothing to do with how it can be used for circuit boards or cameras or anything other than we're holding a scarce item and the world wants it. So I would contend that Bitcoin on that front is no different than gold. It is a scarce commodity and they're creating desirability around the world because it's a store of value. And one of the other comments that Indigo mentioned was like, let's see, I may have it on here. This is the long one. You were talking about how it just destroys, it inflates value, right? So you're creating inflation. I would argue that it's actually a hedge against inflation because the money printing of physical dollars drives up inflation. Well, one of the factors driving inflation. So to hedge yourself against that, you'd buy something like gold or you buy something like Bitcoin, which is digital gold. So that's some of the value of why Bitcoin is so interesting. And I agree with you, it doesn't have utility, but a lot of these crypto networks that I think you believe have zero intrinsic value, they actually have value because of their utility, right? It's the ability for you to access this. For example, Ethereum is the largest decentralized computer in the world. If you want to access that, you need ETH. That's its value. You have to use ETH to access that playing field. It's like, you want to go in, you want to watch a game at the Staples Center or Crypto.com Arena, you got to buy a ticket. The ticket is your entrance. That's its value. Let's see. I think Elon has mentioned some. Yeah, he did. So to go to Indigo's comments further. How much time do I have? All right, I'm going to wrap this. You can do it quickly here. He says, I asked AI how Bitcoin creates value. Number one, scarcity, which is monetary inflation, not value created. Well, I don't know if I necessarily it's monetary inflation. You're taking money which is being printed at will, and you're buying something that's not printed at will. You're taking something that's infinite in supply, and you are buying something that's scarce with it. So I don't know if that's necessarily monetary inflation, but it does increase the desirability of Bitcoin. Number two on your list says decentralization, maybe ease of use, but not value. No, one of the main reasons that a lot of these crypto projects are increasing in value is it removes that central entity. The central entity usually takes a cut of the action. Central entities manipulate prices, they censor transactions, and they can do what they want with their customers. With crypto, if that project is in fact decentralized, you have those obstacles removed. It's not controlled by any one entity. There's no censorship to happen, and less manipulation from that perspective. So three, I think decentralization is a big value added for number two there. Number three, utility. All right, we already covered that, and you gave it one little piece here, and utility is extremely important. Now, as we start to grow crypto, and again, I think crypto has a real negative connotation. The systems with which you go and get a loan will be done on a blockchain, which Indigo has indicated blockchain he's fine with, and many others have said that as well. But understand, blockchain is that technology. The applications which are built on top of that blockchain are also crypto. So if I want to use a lending protocol to procure money to buy a house or a car or something in the future, that project will be built on top of a blockchain. So to say that Ethereum has no value is foolish, because the value is the utility and utilization of it by all the people around the world. So if I want to start a lending company, let's call it Merlin's Loans, and I want to do digital loans or physical loans or lend money out in any way, shape, or form, I can create that digital business, plug it into Ethereum or Solana or Cardano, and now have my business up and running. And for me as a business owner, I just saved myself a ton of money because I'm no longer worried about tracking the money. That's all done by Ethereum. I'm no longer worried about tracking all the contracts. That's done by Ethereum. So I've outsourced that to Ethereum. That's part of its utility as well. Yeah, pretty sure Big Ep and Indigo has none. I know, Margaret. It's digital assets. Market speculation. Number one reason why I don't like crypto is the crazy speculators. So I agree with you on that one, Indigo. Market speculation is bad, especially with the meme coins, right? When I look at something like Ethereum or Cardano or Solana, it's more about the adoption aspect. And as we start to see countries, businesses, governments adopt and use that technology, that gives it more value, right? So saying that Avalanche and Ethereum are garbage and useless and have no intrinsic value, that's a farce. JP Morgan right now is literally using Avalanche and Ethereum to maintain their Connexus blockchain. And that's being used to connect banks around the world. That's massive utility. That is absolute value. And the more that happens, whether it's Target and Walmart and Sam Goody or whoever getting together and doing logistics and tracking of shipments and inventory so they're all improve their business model, that's value to them as well. Let's see, adoption. Adoption says this is needed to make scarcity work. It's not just scarcity. Adoption is where people realize that these systems are better than the systems that we have today. That they outpace this antiquated financial technology from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and we're just simply upgrading the system. So I would contend that adoption simply means we are now using current technologies to solve old problems, and that makes the whole system better, more efficient, and more transparent. Kind of like, what problem does an MP3 solve? Oh, well, that's stupid. I mean, I want to hold it. I want to have actual tangible, something I can hold. MP3s are dumb. Well, no, they're not, right? There's utility there, though. They're digital. They're lightweight. There's no weight to them. It's a piece of code. So the more we get adoption, again, not just from governments, but also from institutions and businesses. I mean, even Amazon is using Avalanche, all right? That fosters adoption. That drives up value of that network. Think of it like a software. Think of digital assets like Ethereum and Cardano and so on as a software, a technology provider. And that technology that is provided is access to that blockchain. Now, there's a lot to choose from. It's kind of like buying a can of cola. Do I get RC Cola, Dr. Pepper, Jolt, Coke? I mean, which cola do I want? Well, there's different flavors for everyone that do different things. So let's see. I know I'm probably boring the viewers here to death, but let's go on with it. All the services that you talk about could be bought with dollars. Don't need Bitcoin to create blockchain services. Hence, no one can explain why crypto brings value. I just did, in my opinion, I did explain why crypto brings value. And I think one of the big pieces there, Indigo, is the dollar is the most manipulated currency in the world. They can print as much as they want, and that devalues your purchasing power on every single thing that you do. If I hold Bitcoin, which is actually appreciating in value against the dollar, then if I want to buy goods and services in 3 months or 6 months or a year down the road, I'm going to have more purchasing power when I convert that Bitcoin or Ethereum or other digital assets back into dollars. It's the government manipulation of the dollar supply which is causing people to want to go to these because in most cases, not all, but in most cases, there's a set number. Bitcoin's got 21 million, Litecoin's got 84 million. You look at something like BNB. Bitcoin had 200 million, and now they're actually destroying it to get down to 100 million. So there are a lot of positive arguments for it. I think we just have to think differently. You're thinking that this is a one-off, that this is something that doesn't change the system, that this is a new piece that doesn't matter. This, to me, augments the entire system. It brings in change to the entire financial system and anything to do with money. And also, when we get to the future, we're talking, with these robots and stuff, they'll all be operating off of a digital network. And that digital network will be powered by crypto projects, digital assets, and so forth. Your houses will all be blockchain, and which blockchain they're using, that's your intrinsic value. When all of a sudden our entire real estate market and the MLS service, the realtors agency are all trading homes on a blockchain, which blockchain are they using? I hope that's in your portfolio because that will bring some serious upside value. All right. So thank you, Indigo. I appreciate that. I hope I added some clarity. Not trying to change your mind, just give you some clarity from my perspective. All supply and demand, only 21 million. He said, yeah, so with Bitcoin, it's only 21 million. Others, there's a lot more. Some, there's much less. Let's see, Chase, I always go back and go to the analogy of the internet. What coins came out ahead depends on what value they bring to the blockchain and the end user services they provide. Yep, exactly. In the early days, you'd be like, well, why do I need to get on the internet and use AOL Messenger and chat with my friend down the street? I'll just call him my phone. Like, this is stupid. AOL's dumb, right? No, it was the gateway to bigger technologies, bigger innovations. And I say it with this stupid kind of, frat boy, surfer boy attitude because that was my attitude. My mom, it was 1990, I want to say it was 1993, 1992, 94. Yeah, it was 1993. If not, it was early 1994. My mom was sitting at home and I went over to visit her and she said, Merlin, look at this. You're going to love it. I'm talking to my relatives in Germany. And she's like, I'm just chatting with them. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, this is dumb. Get on the phone, right? And it's stupid. And now that technology, which started off with AOL Messenger, people chatting around the world, is now, people chat more on their phones more than they call. And not only that, but those chat systems have built entire business ecosystems on top of it. So, yeah, that's my set. And I think FP asked that same one. He says, what exactly is the purpose of owning crypto? It's a speculative play. That's not a real asset. Well, there is value to a digital network and being a part of that. And I hope I explained that one for you too, FP. Let's see. Now, that said, let's go to TC's comment here. He says, where do you think is a good buy zone for Bitcoin? I'm in long term and like to add to my position. I'm thinking 77, but maybe add some around 81. I'm looking long term, hitting 200,000 this year. Your opinion? Yeah, absolutely. I think you go here and looking at that BTC USD chart, which I can bring up. Where is it? I just look at those little yellow boxes I've got drawn on your screen. And for the podcasters, I would say your next logical stopping point is between 74,500 and 76,700. I know that's a $2,300 range, but this is Bitcoin we're talking about. So that would be my first, acquisition point where I thought it would bounce from. And then the last stop would be 66,700. 66,700 would be the low end of that demand zone there. So those are two points. But again, you have to think long term. You have to think adoption, and seeing what Trump and Bessent and Gates are talking about with the Treasury Department and finding other ways. There was a rumor circulating that they might actually sell some of their gold to buy Bitcoin, which I don't think they will do, but we'll see. There's just so many different ways this can go. But long term, I do think it speaks volumes to increasing demand overall for it. Yeah. Michael Saylor said that if you have a chair left, sell it. Isn't that what he said? Something like that. Speaking of credit, oh man, Drew, you're killing me. Said credit is king. I don't know if you guys caught this today, but I'm going to bring it tomorrow. I'll talk about it tomorrow. It's a great topic I want to bring up about some young ladies, congresswomen, Ana Paulina Luna, who's a Republican from Florida, and Alessandria Ocasio-Cortez, right, AOC, which you either love her or you hate her, a Democrat from New York, talking about capping credit cards. And I thought that was an interesting discussion that you and I have had as well. Like, how can you charge 29% for people? It's usurious. So we will, I'll talk about that one tomorrow. So recession fears make crypto tank. I think it's several pieces. Again, you would think recession fears may actually help crypto move to the upside, but yeah, some of it's just unexplainable, Margaret. I don't have a clear understanding as to why crypto would be tanking as aggressively as it is. To me, it's manipulation. It's manipulation. It's get people to panic, get them to dump, get them out so you can get in at lower prices. Because if the government really does do a strategic Bitcoin reserve plus the digital asset stockpile they're talking about, that will certainly increase demand around the world. There you go. Roll that Matto a bit on Bitcoin. Yeah, right? Oh, man, that was funny. I don't know if you guys saw it on Twitter. I don't know what's her name, Maddow. Rachel Maddow. She was on MSNBC, and she did a show last week or something talking about how Bitcoin is a total scam. And I was just like, wow, okay. I mean, you clearly don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, let's go to your economic calendar here and earnings. We can talk about that. There is some earnings. We had the Oracle report earnings today. They missed. Tomorrow, you do have NEO, and let's see, other big ones in here. Dick's Sporting Goods, Casey's General Store, and then NEO. NEO is really the only one I'm interested in just because of that EV space. NEO has been kind of flat and dormant, not really doing much. Not much at all. Really kind of sliding lower and lower and lower. They were pretty popular for a while. You can see the big surge back there in September of last year. I remember going all the way back into their heydays. You're talking up around $70. Fantastic. But now just $4. They make nice cars, but another Chinese company where you have to trust all the numbers and the data. But they report tomorrow. That is going to be before market open, I believe. He doesn't say. China. Gotta love it. They don't have to tell you. And then I guess we can go and look at our Forex factory and look at the economic announcements for tomorrow. That is your kind of bigger stuff is going to be happening tomorrow. Well, you've got basically Wednesday is the big day. So Jolt Stop openings happens tomorrow. That's going to be at 7 a.m. Pacific time, so 30 minutes in the trading session, we will get a Jolt's job openings to further give us some understanding of the numbers going on in that job scene. And I don't have the picture of the government jobs, but I'll show you that one tomorrow. Really, it's all about Wednesday. We get that inflation data. So there we go. What else do I got here for you? Capping credit cards or the interest on unpaid credit cards? The interest. Yeah. Think about that one for tomorrow. Don't do it now because I want to have this discussion tomorrow. I think it's interesting. I, for one, think it's abuse of power. It's unnecessary to charge 29% interest on credit cards. And the talk track is that they want to cap it at 10% interest. Now, don't type in the chat yet. Just keep your thoughts for tomorrow. Think about it. And when we start tomorrow, we'll bring that one up. And I want to see what you guys think. So if you can write it out and copy and paste if you want. But I want you to let me know tomorrow, good or bad, capping credit cards at 10%. And there's multiple ways you can look at this one, so it'll be a fun one. Juan says, what keeps anyone from making a Bitcoin-like token? Bitcoin wouldn't be unique or scarce. There's plenty of Bitcoin copies, Juan. There's actually a ton of knockoffs. You could start right now, Juan. You could go download Bitcoin's code and start your own Bitcoin. I mean, you could. But it has network effect. It already has adoption. It has built up this demand and mystique about it. And there's a lot of people who fork Bitcoin where you can actually break it in half and try to create a side shoot, which is what Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Gold, Bitcoin Diamond, all those different Bitcoin forks. And you're 100% right, Juan. You could go and create your own, but you got to get everybody to use it. And that's the tough part. Now what you have is you have more and more people accepting it, using it, and the statement that the government's going to have a strategic Bitcoin reserve adds a lot more validity to it. Okay? 1 sec before we go. How much time do I got left? 5 minutes. All right, just for you, Liz. Just for you, Margaret. We'll look at Rivian. Oh, man. Man, it's funny. I was selling the $10.50 calls, I was selling the 1050 puts on this for so long. Ended up being a great trade overall. Chart looks awful. And I think a big part of this, Margaret, is the incentives for EVs getting taken away under the Trump administration, right? That certainly does have an impact. I will say that the Rivian vehicle is actually growing on me quite a bit. I actually do kind of like it quite a bit. So chart-wise, I mean, I'd be looking at selling $10 puts. You get great premium on this bad boy. It's extremely volatile, really good premium. But I'd be fine for my account doing the $10 puts. Right now, I don't have any, but maybe just to like put my money where my mouth is. Maybe I'll see what it does tomorrow and look at that one there. So you go. Rob Bautista, am I bearish on cryptos? For now, I am. The trend is your friend till the bend at the end. So I do think you'll see things continue to drift lower. You know, you look at that chart of Bitcoin. I mean, that's the classic definition of a downtrend, is it not? Lower lows, lower highs. So yeah, I don't want it to, but I do think it's going to go lower here. You know, hopefully one of these demand zones will hold. We'll see institutional buying come in. We'll see whoever's manipulating this and pushing it down. There were some pretty large purchases today for Bitcoin, but just overall, you got a lot more selling. And yeah, I did see your, Liz, I did see that. I'll bring that one up as well. I wanted to dive deeper into it. So there, Arkham, you can track almost anybody. So I'd mentioned that we don't know exactly where Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy or Strategy is keeping their Bitcoin and where they're buying it. And even in looking at Arkham's, it all points back to Fidelity. So if you saw that one in there, looks at Fidelity. Demand zone below and Rivian gap drop. I would say the demand zone on Rivian at $10 is just, it's a big psychological number that it's dealt with for a long time. And I'll put a horizontal line right there. I would be looking at $10. $10 is my number for Rivian. You notice if you go back here, it respected it back here also in early 2024, multiple times bouncing across that one. Boom, 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 boom. So I think it's probably headed back there. The question is, do these incentive removals kill Rivian? I don't think so. I think Rivian will be one of the ones that makes it. They make a good car. It's a really nice looking vehicle. All right, that's it. I'm gonna wrap up. So tomorrow I'm not quite sure where I'm going to go, but I will talk about, obviously, some topic happens for the day. Hopefully it's as exciting as today. Today was crazy. I'd love it if we had a little bit of a rebound here, but, you know, it is what it is. We'll just deal with these markets as they go. Fortunately, I had one small trade on the S&P short today. That was fine, but it was nothing like my numbers last week. That was great. So if you guys have comments, questions, things you want me to discuss on tomorrow's show, email me, tradermerlin@gmail.com, or as Indigo and many others have done, you can comment on the YouTube channel. Just post your comments on there, and I will gladly incorporate them into the show and maybe make a whole show out of it. So thank you guys so much. Have a fantastic remainder of your day, and I will see you mañana.